Here. Good morning, everyone. This is Kent McCusick, your minister, serving this UU Fellowship of Ames with pleasure and honor. It's good to have you with us this morning. My pronouns are he and him. And the service this morning is Beyond the Horizon. Our board welcome.
Good morning and welcome. My name is Sarah Carlson and I serve on your Fellowship Board of Directors. I want to thank you all for being here today and extend a special welcome to any visitors with us today. Please stay on after the service for our virtual coffee hour in small breakout rooms where you can introduce yourself if you're comfortable and join in conversation. If you would like more information about the fellowship, please sign the virtual guest book on our website, uufames.org. You will find it under the Visitors tab. The fellowship is monitoring the Story County COVID positive test rate via covidactnow.org. If rates reach 15%, all in-person activities for the UUFA will immediately be transitioned to virtual only for at least 7 days. This will include Sunday services, religious education, and all other UUFA meetings and activities. Determination of this is made every Wednesday around noon and shared on the UUFA website and via the Friday weekly email. As you know, the positive test rate is above 15% this week. We are thankful that you've chosen to join us from your homes this morning, and we look forward to the time when we can gather in person again at the fellowship. When that is possible, streaming services will continue to be offered. For now, please remember to check for all virtual gatherings at uufames.org. So on behalf of this caring, nurturing conversation, I welcome each and every one of you to this sacred space. Here, we invite you into an experience of transformation, hope, renewal, and connections, which may inspire you to understand life in new ways. Thanks for being here.
Each week, we begin our service with the ringing of our chime 3 times. Once to wake the chime, once to open our minds, and once to open our hearts as we begin this time together.
In the world of the driven, let us be drawn in. Let your love be a given, let us be drawn in. To imagine, to dream, to create, to redeem, for the sake of the living, let us be drawn in.
Our chalice lighting this morning is by Susan Carlson, Carlson with a K. We are blessed by our connection to one another, to the spirit of life. Walk lightly that you see the life that is below your feet. Spread your arms as if you had wings and could dance through the air. Feel the joy of the breath in your lungs and the fire in your heart. Live to love and be a blessing to the earth. On this beautiful Sunday morning, our opening song is Morning Has Come by Jason Shelton, sung by Michael Tacey. Our time for all ages this morning is called The Horizon. The time for all ages this morning is one that I told in Fellowship Hall on June 3, 2012. After that service, almost 10 years ago, the members of the UU Fellowship of Ames called me to be your third settled minister. As I reflected on our first week together, I realized that this story is just as relevant as we begin our last 4 months together. There's a story, and maybe all of us can relate to this. If you've ever been in a classroom or a fellowship hall with large, amazing windows, you may have found yourself on occasion looking out the window, daydreaming a bit. I know I have, especially the last few weeks. And suddenly, the teacher's standing by your desk and says, "What do you see looking out the window?" And you respond, I see the horizon. And you think you're going to get scolded. But instead of getting scolded, the teacher looks at you and says, "Have you ever walked all the way to the horizon?" And you say, "No, I'm too young. I wouldn't do that." But you're interested. And you ask, "If I walk all the way to the horizon, what will I find?" And the teacher smiles and responds, "When you get to the horizon, you're going to find another horizon. And if I walk again?" And the teacher says, "And then you'll find another horizon." This is of concern. And you might ask, does that mean that my life will always be a life of losing horizons? And the teacher says, no. It means you will always have a life of finding new horizons. We're always discovering new horizons. We are on the cusp of making the journey to new horizons, you and I, dear ones. And our separate journeys will be filled with challenge and joy and beauty, because life offers all of these things. And we will all be fine. We will. And that is our time for all ages. Our offertory recipient for the month of February is the Bethesda Community Food Pantry, which was established in 1983 from humble beginnings and a simple bag of groceries. Today, it gives an average of 500 community households more than 15,000 pounds of food each month by partnering with the Food Bank of Iowa. Recipients of the program can visit the pantry once a month, receiving much needed food and vouchers for fresh produce. You can learn more about them at their website, BethesdaAmes.org/food-pantry. At the end of the service, please consider going to our website, uufames.org, to the Giving tab, and give generously to our recipient, the Bethesda Community Food Pantry, for the service they do in feeding hungry people in Ames. Thank you for your generosity. February is Black History Month, and today we have a Black History Month moment.
It's February, so many teachers and schools are celebrating Black History Month. but there are still many misconceptions and misunderstandings about the past, present, and future of this celebration. So today, I thought we'd go back to the beginning. Hi, this is Mike Hines, and I'm a professor here at the Stanford Graduate School of Education, where my work focuses on the history of America's schools. What we now know as Black History Month had its beginnings as Negro History Week, which was invented by the famed historian, educator, and activist Carter G. Woodson in 1926. Negro History Week was a direct challenge to traditional curricula of the time period, which often degraded and dehumanized Black people. Negro History Week was also inextricably linked to Black calls for social and political equality. More than just a chance to talk about a few notable achievements, Negro History Week was a call to action. Although Negro History Week became one of his most widely known interventions, it was only part of Dr. Woodson's efforts to develop, democratize, and disseminate information on Black history. He also pursued this work through the establishment of the Association for Negro Life and History, its journals, the Journal of Negro History and the Negro History Bulletin, and textbooks, speeches, pamphlets, and materials for every grade level from college down to kindergarten. Now, Woodson didn't do this work alone. Moving from idea to reality took the dedication of thousands of Black teachers, most of them women, who were largely responsible for shaping the celebration through their work in the classroom. It also took the work of entire communities, including churches, fraternities and sororities, libraries and lodges, social clubs, and civic organizations. This reflected Woodson's desire to encourage lay people, not just academics, to preserve and present their own histories. As the movement continued to grow, it outstripped the bounds of a single week, and the word Negro, which was outdated by the 1960s, was replaced by a new generation born and raised in the civil rights struggle. Black History Month emerged in its current form during those decades and is still going strong. So, is this celebration still relevant today? Well, it depends on who you ask. Critics charge that the progress we've made from the 1920s to the 2020s has largely made Black History Month irrelevant. Or that worse, singling out Black history is actually counterproductive to broader efforts at inclusion. Although we may have made progress, however, research from the Southern Poverty Law Center and other sources still shows that we are far from our goal of honoring the multiple voices in our classrooms and challenging dominant narratives. At the same time, new and emerging movements for racial justice call out for historical context, which our schools simply fail to provide. Carter G. Woodson himself was cautiously optimistic that students in the future would no longer need Black History Month if we taught in ways that honored and elevated our students and told their stories all year long. But we're not there yet. So Black History Month will continue to be what it always has been: a celebration, a stinging indictment, and a call to action, all in one.
The first reading this morning is from It Matters by the Reverend Robert R. Walsh. The reader is Sarah Carlson.
I knew a man who had painted on his stationery this proverb: "Nothing is settled, everything matters." It established a certain ambiance for reading his letters, as if to say, what you are about to read is to be taken seriously, but it's not final. I remember him and his proverb sometimes, especially when it seems impossible to change the world or myself in any significant way. Times like the beginnings of New Year's. Sorry, Jim, I say, it's not true that nothing is settled. In the past year, choices have been made, losses have been suffered, there have been growth and decay, there have been commitments and betrayals. None of that can be undone. A year ago, no one knew whether during this year one person would become pregnant, another would get cancer, another would take a job, another would have an accident. But now it is settled. One day this year, I was present just when someone needed me. Another day, I was busy doing something else when I was needed. One day, I said something to a friend that injured our relationship. Another day, I said something that enabled a person to see life in a new way. The best and worst of those days is now written. All my tears or joy or sorrow cannot erase it. If I stay with my meditation long enough, the reply comes. Sarah, says Jim, you have misunderstood the proverb. It is true that you cannot escape the consequences of your actions or the chances of the world, but what is not settled is how the story turns out. What is not settled is what the meaning of your life will be. The meaning of life is not contained within one act or one day or 1 year. As long as you are alive, the story of your life is being told and the meaning is still open. As long as there is life in the world, the story of the world is still being told. What is done, but nothing is settled. And if nothing is settled, then everything matters. Every choice, every act in the new year matters. Every word, every deed is making the meaning of your life and telling the story of the world. Everything matters in the year coming. And more importantly, everything matters today.
Each week, we take time in our service to share things that are bringing us joy, challenge, or gratitude. Our milestones. This is our time of community sharing in celebration and support. As I open the room to sharing, please give each other space, introduce yourself, share your milestone, and let us know when you are finished. This is our time of sharing. I would like to open with hopes and prayers for the people of Ukraine and neighboring countries, that peace is maintained. Our partner church in Romania is especially in my thoughts, as Romania is a bordering country to Ukraine. May there be peace. I'm finished.
Whoops.
If you have a milestone, please go ahead.
Oh, this this is Mary Richardson. I just wanted to say as a milestone today that I'm very happy to have my daughter Sarah here with me. to celebrate my birthday, which will happen tomorrow. That's it.
Welcome, Sarah, and happy birthday, Mary. For the milestones that have been spoken, and mostly for all of those milestones that we hold gently and quietly in our hearts, know that whatever you're carrying today in this community of love and connection, no one ever needs to make the journey alone, and you are loved. Let's be together in a moment of silence. It is good to be together. The second reading is called Mindful by Mary Oliver, and Sarah is the reader.
Every day I see or hear something that more or less kills me with delight, that leaves me like a needle in the haystack of light. It was what I was born for, to look, to listen, to lose myself inside this soft world, to instruct myself over and over in joy and acclamation. Nor am I talking about the exceptional, the fearful, the dreadful, the very extravagant, but of the ordinary, the common, the very drab, the daily presentations. Oh, good scholar, I say to myself, how can you help but grow wise with such teachings as these? The untrimmable light of the world, the ocean's shine, the prayers that are made out of grass.
For our special music this morning, we have Spirit of Life by Carolyn McDade, performed by Barry Hall. This week, I shared with the board, the staff, and you that I will be retiring from serving this fellowship and from full-time ministry on July 1st. Like many of you, I have many and varied feelings about this transition. Most of all, I am happy and excited to witness and support my husband, James, as he follows his dreams into professional life, just as he was excited and supported me on this ministerial journey that took us to Maine, Kansas City, New Hampshire, and Ames, Iowa. We never imagined that we would live in Iowa, and we never imagined that we would love it, but we did, and we do. James and I have journeyed together to several horizons and are looking ahead to new ones. Of course, looking ahead means letting go. That is the hard part for us and possibly for you. Please know that your UFA board, president, and board have already initiated the process of ministerial transition with the support of the UUA Transitions Office and the Mid-America Congregational Life staff. Members of the board have volunteered to serve in that process, which begins on April 22. The timing of my notice was in part to align with the interim minister process in order to provide flexibility and better options for the fellowship as you move ahead. You are being served by experienced and good leaders. The next year offers exciting possibilities to consider the future direction of this fellowship. What I have not said to you often enough is how much I have loved serving as your minister, how much I care for all of you, and how you have contributed to my personal and spiritual growth. You have made my life better. This crazy, crazy life of ministry is challenging, confusing, painful, exhausting, and confounding in so many ways. But it is also inspiring, exciting, energizing, healing, and filled with joy too. Our ministry has been a shared ministry in every way. As sad as I am to leave you, and to leave you with unfinished work, which is always a part of leaving, I am filled with joy, satisfaction, gratitude, and memories of you that I will carry and reflect on for the rest of my life. In this moment, I share what Anne Lamott has identified as the only prayer we ever need. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Since many of us do not identify ourselves as people who pray, I also offer Mary Oliver's observation that I don't know exactly what prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down into the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. You do know how to pay attention. In answering the charge to broaden the spiritual base of this fellowship, I broadened and deepened my own understanding of spirituality, theology, and love. One of the things I love about Unitarian Universalism, your ministers' beliefs are fluid and growing as much as yours may be. We have shared and continue to share a journey of spiritual, emotional, and intellectual growth, and we remain committed to the work of justice and equality for everyone. We have walked towards many horizons together during the last 9 years and are moving towards our final one in these last few months. This time represents an ending and a beginning for all of us. And while we are not saying goodbye today, that too is on the horizon. In his book on saying goodbye, Edward White writes, "Why are goodbyes so important? The transitions in our lives are often the most significant times of growth. Leaving the womb, leaving home, going to college, finding one's first job, getting married, having children, receiving a promotion or transfer, losing a loved one, facing suffering and death. These are moments when we are stretched and challenged in new ways. The established patterns of life are overturned and we find new ways to cope. The predictability of life is replaced by uncertainty. We experience vulnerability, fear, and exhilaration. If we make the transition successfully, we experience a new sense of capacity for living, a new sense of maturity and self-worth. We discover the mystery and wonder that by grace, we can surrender the old and embrace the new." My friend and colleague, Mary Gregolia, wrote a song that is resonating with me through these days. The poetry and depth of emotion and wisdom is beautiful and inspiring. In part, she writes, "I am who I'm becoming. I am all I have done. I am what I am dreaming. I've only just begun. You are who you're becoming. You are all you have done. You are what you are dreaming. You've only just begun. We are who we're becoming. We've only just begun." The story of our lives is still being told. We were born to look and listen, to lose ourselves in this soft world, and to instruct ourselves over and over as we hopefully become wiser. You will always be a part of my story, as I will always be a part of yours. I will remember you and carry the love, wisdom, and growth you shared as I move forward in the world. As I remember and reflect on our time together, I have revisited poems and readings that have been and still are meaningful to me. I close today with a piece by the Reverend Richard Gilbert. The title is "The Poignancy of Living in These Days." I inhale and exhale in regular rhythm, an act so common it never occurs to me to pay attention. And when I do, I am overwhelmed with the wonder of it all. I eat my food as I have for 1,000 days, a practice so frequent I hardly notice the miraculous million events that happen in my body. And when I do, I am taken with their singular beauty. I greet my loved ones as I have greeted them for years, a habit that I pass off casually until I realize the deep poignancy of greetings and farewells. How precious they are. How they touch deeper feeling chords each time. Perhaps it's middle age or old age, or perhaps sentiment grows in me, or perhaps I am awakening to life in ways transcending my usual semi-awake state of being. The poignancy of living in these days penetrates me, burrows deep into my psyche or soul or spirit. I know not what. I only know that I feel things more deeply than the passing years, that common things of life become uncommon, that the extraordinary becomes extraordinary, that the habitual becomes sacred. Bittersweet is the poignancy of living in these days. I awaken myself and bow in deep gratitude. And so we begin. I offer my love and my blessings as we look beyond the horizon. Amen, and blessed be. The closing song today is the song Becoming by Mary Gregolia, performed by Eleuthera Tisconio Lippert. We extinguish the chalice today with the words of Wendell Berry. And the world cannot be discovered by a journey of miles, no matter how long, but only by a spiritual journey. A journey of 1 inch, very arduous and humbling and joyful, by which we arrive at the ground at our feet and learn to be at home. Again, thank you for your generosity today in making a financial gift to support the work of the Bethesda Community Food Pantry by going to UUFAIMS.org, the Giving tab, where you can make your offertory donation or support other initiatives important to this fellowship, like Black Lives Matter and our partner church. Thank you for your generosity. Also, thank you for being with us this morning as we gather on a beautiful day to have this hour together. We'll now go into breakout rooms and then come back into the larger community where, if you have questions for me, I'll be glad to talk with you about what's going on with me and how you are doing. I look forward to that conversation. Thanks for being here.